Hello everyone, that Manga Kid here to do a wrap up of Bizarre Individuals 24-hour readathon, the sibling themed one. I don't remember if it had a specific name, but it was basically a sibling themed readathon that took place on April 13th, which was a Saturday. I read 16 volumes of manga, all of which somehow related to sibling/family, so I'm just going to go right into it and let you know what I read. So I started off with volume 1 of Hitori My Hero. This is a boys love series. It's new, being put out by Kodansha. This is the larger trim size format. It's a really cute boys love series that does revolve around siblings and family, in the sense that the darker haired guy is a teacher. This younger guy is one of his students and also sort of childhood-ish friend of the teacher's little brother. The romance, it is an age gap romance between these two individuals, and so the little brother is his friend, the main character's friend, and then obviously he's dating his friend's older brother. It also kind of revolves around family, in the sense that our main character also has a bit of a troubled home life, and we do kind of learn a bit about his situation with his mom, and that all kind of intertwines in the story. But basically, this is an age gap romance, and it's really cute. It's really sweet. It does have sexual themes that are kind of like hinted at, but it isn't explicit. Like, if you read yaoi, this isn't a yaoi. It's a boys love series that does technically have sexual themes, but they aren't super explicit, and it isn't really that bad at all comparatively to yaoi. Yeah, so this is the first volume that I read, and then I continued on with volume 2. I know I have volume 3 pre-ordered. I don't remember when it comes out, but I know that it will be out at some point soon, I guess. But I think volume 2 just came out, so I read volume 2 as well of Hitori My Hero. If you like romance, especially age gap romance, regardless of if you like boys love or not, this is a really good series. It's fun, it's quirky, it's the characters, all the side characters are a lot of fun. My only thing is, this is technically, I think, a spin-off series of a series called like Hitori My Boyfriend or something like that, which I don't think we have here translated into English. I watched the anime for this Hitori My Hero and I loved it, so I picked up the manga. Unless they fill in the gaps later, the anime did a better job of kind of filling in backstory of how all of this came to be, whereas I'm finding the manga is kind of lacking in background information. And if I didn't watch the anime, I wouldn't have the background information that I have because I did watch it. So I'm wondering if this would be slightly confusing to people who didn't watch the anime. But I don't know, because I did watch the anime and I haven't read this as someone who didn't. And also, I don't know if maybe the manga just fills in those gaps later and the anime just had less of a time to do it, so they filled them in at the beginning. I don't know, but I did find it. There are definitely pieces missing in this that weren't in that the anime went over that this did not. But I still enjoy it, still recommend it. Yeah, and I guess we'll see where it goes. The next thing I picked up was this is volume 1 of Me and My Brothers. This is a Tokyo Pop series. It is 11 volumes. Unfortunately, I only own the first 4. This is a series that I found used. I had the opportunity to pick up all of them at one point. I didn't get it, and I have regretted it ever since. I've only been able to find the first 4 at this point, because I didn't pick up all 11 of them when I had the chance. But this is basically a series about this girl here. She's a middle school student. I think she's second year middle school, so she's like 13 or 14 years old or something like that. And it follows her. She lived with her grandmother because she was orphaned at a very young age, like 2 or 3 years old or something. And so she lived with her grandmother. Her grandmother's passed away now. She's alone. She comes home and there are 4 boys in her house that are like, hey, we're your brothers. Now we're going to live with you. And so it's basically exactly what the title says. It's Me and My Brothers. It's kind of a slice of life, episodic-ish sort of story about this little girl or middle school girl living with her brothers who are, this one is, I think he's 17. This one's the oldest. He's, I think, 25 or 26. This guy, I think, is 19. And then the second oldest is a teacher at her school, and he is, I think, 21 or 22 or something. So it's just shenanigans with her and her brothers. I really love the art style. I find it to be really charming and cute. The stories are cute. They're kind of funny. Yeah, my only issue is I find this a lot with some of the older Tokyo Pop series, is like some of the writing is really, really tiny, and I just can't read it. So no matter how hard I try, I just cannot read it. So the main dialogue is fine. It's just those like side comments that you see in manga a lot that are kind of off in the distance, that are unfortunately where some of the jokes come in, but I can't physically read them. So that was a downside, but it didn't ruin my enjoyment of this. So I also continued on with volume 2, volume 3, and volume 4. This cover's so cute. I highly recommend this if you find it for a good price for the 11 volumes or even just a couple of them. It's really fun. It does have a story. Like, we are kind of finding out more about their family situation, how, some backstory about each of the brothers and her parents, because she doesn't remember her parents because they passed away when she was so young. And it's just a fun family story. That's really sweet and heartwarming and cute. Yeah, so I'm glad I finally read it, because I've had that on my shelf for a while, and just this was the perfect excuse to read it. So the next thing I picked up was volumes 5 and 6 of Flying Witch, and this is a series about, it is a very much like slow-paced slice of life comedy about this witch in training. She's in high school, and so she moves to this small town to move in with her cousins, and she's just training to be a full-fledged witch. So she's kind of learning some spells. You get some crossover between like the human world and the supernatural kind of world, but it's all done in a really cute, like fluffy kind of way. The art is really kind of peaceful, simple, but also really beautifully detailed. You can see in like there's a lot of nature scenes and stuff that are really beautifully done. Yeah, so it's not like a hardcore supernatural whatever. It's just kind of like, oh, there's this fun creature here on the sidewalk that normal people can't see. And it's just really sweet. It's so cute and endearing and funny, and the covers are always gorgeous. The characters are always really well kind of thought out and put together, and it's just, the cats are adorable. It's just a lot of fun, and it is family centered in the way that our main character, who's the dark-haired girl here, moves in with her cousins. There's a boy who's around her age, and then his younger sister, who is, I think she's like 10 or 11, maybe 8 or 9 even, I don't remember. But it is, and then her older sister, the main character, is already a full-fledged witch. So she pops in here and there to kind of give guidance and check in on her sister and all that kind of stuff. So it is very much a family-centered, small-town kind of story that happens to involve witchcraft. The next thing I read is volume 3 of Shortcake Cake. This is a newer shoujo series put out by Shoujo Viz. And it's about this girl who moves into a boarding house. She's in high school. She moves into a boarding house with, it is a co-ed boarding house. So obviously there's some romantic tension between her and the male housemates. But it is family-centered in the way that there's a lot of, especially in this volume, mention of siblings of the characters that are living in the boarding house, and a lot of backstory is kind of unraveling about the families of these kids, because there's kind of a reason why they've decided in high school to live in a boarding house as opposed to their family's house. So we're learning some backstory about the relationship between these kids in the boarding house and their siblings, why they don't want to be at home, why they would rather be in the boarding house. We do get to meet some of the siblings of these people. And so this one in particular, I went into this because I'd read the first 2 volumes thinking, oh, there's only one pair of siblings and they're still kind of in the background, but they might come forward. This one focused a bit more on that relationship between those 2 siblings and then also introduced another sibling to the mix. So that was, fortunate for this readathon, I guess. But yeah, Shortcake Cake, I'm really enjoying it. Left it on a cliffhanger for this volume. I cannot wait for the 4th volume. I think it comes out next month if I remember correctly. But the art is just super, like the characters are just gorgeous. The characters are just really, really pretty, and I like the story. I think it's charming. I think it's cute. It's progressing at a fast enough pace. Look at how pretty the main character is. She's so cute. It's progressing at a fast enough pace that I'm really happy with how it's going so far. Next, I continued on with Monkey High. I've talked about this a few times, and I will be making a video now that I've finished the series. I read volume 5, 6, 7. This is my favorite cover. And volume 8, the final volume. This is an older Shoujo Beat series from around 2008, I think it was translated. I had read this in the past, like a decade ago almost, and always wanted to own it and read it again, so I finally have all 8. I finally read them. This is a comedy shoujo school romance. However, it centers around family because the main girl, Haruna here, she basically is the daughter of a politician, pretty high tier kind of politician who got into a scandal, and therefore she left her private school that she was at and moved to this public school, whatever, and now her family's kind of in, her father, I think, was put in jail for a bit or was fined a lot of money for his criminal kind of actions, fraud of some kind, and so it's her, the underlying story here is her kind of learning to trust these new friends, this new boyfriend, because of her family kind of trauma that she's dealt with, and trying to repair and rebuild that relationship with her father, with her brother. It doesn't really mention her mother much at all. But yeah, so it's basically the story of her trying to repair her relationship with her brother and her father, with the help of her new boyfriend, who is trying to push her to be more involved with her family, and that she does actually love them despite the mistakes that they've made, and the issues that they've caused for her in her life doesn't mean she doesn't love them. And so it really is a rebuilding family kind of story that happens to be also a comedy romance. I love this series, highly recommend it. I will be making a full video on it, so look out for that. But yeah, so I read those four volumes of Monkey High. Next, I read volume 6 of Bloom Into You. This is the newest volume that just came out. This is a girls love Yuri-ish shoujo ai series kind of thing. It's not really explicit, so I wouldn't necessarily call it Yuri, but sure. And this volume focused on the school play that had been building up for a while. And this is family oriented because this girl here, who is our main character's like love interest, I guess, is basically, I'm trying to think if I'm spoiling anything. Basically, this character revolves around her relationship with her sister. It's complicated, it's drama-filled, whatever, but basically she's trying to fill her sister's shoes, and is feeling lost and confused in her sister's shadow. So very much sibling focused. I totally forgot that this was, and then when I was looking for the next thing to read on the day of the readathon, I had a list, but I didn't feel like reading anything else from my list, and I went, oh, wait a second, this is really sibling focused, I'll pick this up. So I'm glad I had it, I'm glad I thought to read it. But yeah, this one focused on the school play. If you like girls love series, this is definitely one to check out. I am a bit more picky when it comes to Yuri series and stuff, so I try to look for ones that are more like LGBT focused as opposed to just fan service focused. And I found that some of the characters in this one I do really appreciate how they're portrayed and stuff. So I like this one for sure. But yeah, that was what I read. And then finally, I ended off with Gangsta volumes 1 and 2. This has been out for a couple years now. I think it's been on hiatus. I know there's a spin-off, Gangsta Cursed. I can't remember if it's off hiatus now or what the status of it is. I only own the first 3 volumes and I got them recently used. This is probably the least sibling or family-oriented series, but I read this because I watched the anime years ago. I remember that the main girl, so these are the 2 main characters here, but there's also a girl in the story that you meet right at the beginning, and I remember that part of her story, or like the bulk of her story, is her looking for her little brother, or trying to be reacquainted with him, or something's going on with her and her brother. Unfortunately, in these first 2 volumes, the brother is never mentioned, so unfortunately, it didn't necessarily qualify for this readathon, because I didn't get far enough in the story for it to get to the sibling part. But I will say that it does focus on the family backgrounds of this character here. These 2 have known each other for a long time, like in their childhood years, late childhood years, they became acquainted, and it does focus on their backstory and the family situation, and that kind of stuff. So there was family aspects in this, but the sibling aspect that I thought I was going to be reading about was not in these 2 volumes, unfortunately. But I'm still counting it because I read it during Readathon, and it did have a family dynamic, but it didn't have the sibling aspect that I was looking for while I was reading it. Anyway, those are the 16 volumes that I read for Bizarre Individuals 24-hour Readathon on April 13th. I had a lot of fun. I got a lot read that I had wanted to read for a while, so that's great. And yeah, I enjoyed the theme because it was a theme that I had never really thought much about in regards to like siblings specifically, but also just family-oriented manga. It was harder than I thought to try and come up with some that I hadn't read yet on my shelf, because there's quite a few I could have read, but I had already read them, and I don't like to reread stuff usually for readathons because I like to try and get through my TBR. But yeah, I had a lot of fun, and I think I got a decent amount read. I was hoping for 10 volumes, and I read 16, so that's good enough for me. I read I got up at 11:30 in the morning, so I read from 11:30 till about 10 p.m. at night, so not technically 24 hours, and I didn't want to stay up too late. I was just tired, so I read for that chunk of time, and then just kind of stopped and went, well, I think I'm happy with the 16 that I read. So anyway, if you participated in the readathon and made a video, or if you want to just let me know in the comments what you read for the readathon, or what your favorite sibling themed manga are, that would be awesome. I'd love to hear about it. So yeah, thank you. I believe Lindsay Tutt was also one of the hosts of this readathon. Anyway, I'll leave the information of the hosts and everything in the description, so that you can check out their channels. And yeah, thanks for watching. See ya.